Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brianna Hernandez. I'm the curator here at Moss House. We're so excited to have you all join us for an artist talk with our current solo exhibiting artist, Rebekah Phoenix Wise, who has an amazing solo show, Faces of the Stony Shore. It's on view now until February 14th, so there's going to be time afterwards for you to check it out, but if you want to spend more time with it, you can always come back and visit us again Thursdays and Sundays from 10 to 5 or by appointment. And as we mentioned a minute ago, we also have an upcoming book club session. So if you want to join us, we have free copies. It's an ongoing thing that the books change over many, many topics. So definitely look into that if you're interested in joining us for a read. And I am going to give it over to Rebekah so that she can tell you more about her process, her inspiration, some specific to this show, and some more broadly about all the amazing work that she does because she's multi-talented. So give it up for Rebekah.
Thank you. Hello, Akwe. My name is Rebekah Phoenix Wise. I am an artist who specializes in photography and storytelling. And this project, wait, I have a whole, there we go. I have more stuff. I'm a photographer who specializes in documentary, event, and portrait photography. I was born here on the Shinnecock Reservation. Well, I was not born here, but I grew up here. I've been here since I was about 5 years old. I'm 37 this year, so I've pretty much been here my entire life. I have a degree in cinema and cultural studies from Stony Brook, and I have always, my whole life, kind of wanted to tell stories about Shinnecock people or about Native people. I think as a kid, I thought I was going to be a writer and all, you know. If you're a kid who writes and you think you're going to be a writer, you have a lot of like one chapter you wrote of like 7 different things. And so all of those little one chapter things were always about Shinnecock people. Not Shinnecock people, Native people, just like, you know, all of my main characters were always Native people from the East Coast and things like that. So this is what I'm doing now. This is how I'm telling stories about Native people. Through my photography, I didn't finish the slide, but adding words or videos to the photos at this point are helping me tell a much bigger story. I work full time as the communication director for the Shinnecock Nation, and a lot of that is telling our stories, is, you know, taking pictures of events, of what's going on, if it's a social, if it's a, I was just telling Brianna, I went to a basketball game the other day, the boys at the basketball team always asked me to go. You know, if someone comes and visits, Deb Holland comes and visits, the first story, the first photo on this is not last year because we skipped the 4th of July parade in 2025, but 2024, this was us in the parade. So things like that, I'm documenting all of Shinnecock stuff. I do other things too. I've done all the events for the local NAACP. I work with like the Bridgehampton Child Care Center for a lot of stuff. So really East End things, but you know, Indigenous people in Shinnecock, that is my main focus. So Faces of the Stony Shore is a project that I have wanted to do for years in some capacity. I've always really liked, especially when I was younger, I really loved reading interviews and spotlights on like celebrities or historical figures or just like people of any sort of interest. I've always really liked that kind of stuff. And now that I'm older, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I specifically really like the ones where there's like a funny and charming host and they're just kind of get to know their subject. So something like, I can't see all my words on my slide, so I have to just pull it up real quick, hold on. But stuff like, I really like watching, you know, like Amy Poehler's podcast or Caleb Heron's podcast or anything by Nicole Byer. Those are the kind of things that I really, really love listening to. Sorry, I can't see all my notes. I was so like, oh, this is gonna be great. And now I can't see them all. And that's embarrassing. Hold on. Oh, it's this one. I didn't edit the name.
You're doing great.
Thanks. Thank you. Can I see my notes on here?
Do folks want to come in and grab a chair?
Yes, please sit down while I I thought I had it all right.
Space.
So, Faces of the Stony Shore, it was, so one, like I said, I really like podcasts. I really like listening to interview podcasts and stuff like that. And I had once upon a time thought of doing a podcast for work. So most of my job as a communication director is just like sending emails about, oh, there's a food pickup, there's a meeting this day, there's a weather advisory, things like that. And so I thought a fun creative project to do would be to interview people in a podcast type setting. And I thought about this a couple years ago. I had tried to put it in my budget one time. I was not going to be the person in charge of it. I was going to hire some outside people to do all the production and stuff like that. But I thought it would be fun to sit down with interesting Shinnecock people and interview them. And then, of course, if I'm a photographer, I gotta take a picture of them. So that was kind of the base idea for a long time. Oh, there's my notes. Found them. Yeah, so that was kind of the plan. And then I've had a couple other inspirational things that sort of led me to this. So one of them was a few years ago, I went to the Huntington Arts Council for a talk. And there was a photographer there. His name is Len Marks. He is a portrait photographer. And he was showing us photos of his portraits, and a lot of them were business people. But the ones where he took photos of artists, he preferred to do them in their studios. And I thought that was so interesting, and it really showed a lot more of who they are. They were like a mix between environmental portraits kind of like these and more traditional portraits. They were very stylized. They were very clear, very clean, and I really liked those because they just showed more than someone up against a backdrop. So if I had done this podcast idea where go to a studio and film it there, probably just would have taken all the photos of Shinnecock people up against a backdrop. And I've had a previous project like that a little bit. It was here on display. It wasn't a solo show, but part of a big group setting. I had a bunch of photos of Shinnecock people that I had taken in a studio, and I really liked those photos. But I think something like this really shows who they are a lot more. And when Jeremy asked me to apply for the grant, I have all these ideas, all these different ideas of different projects I had wanted to do, and I figured this was a really good time. I could bring all those ideas that I had, the podcast, the portraits, the environmental portraits, I can put them all into one thing, and that's kind of how Faces of the Stony Shore came to be. So, all of these, so there's 7 photos, 6 of them were formal sit-down interviews. Chuck Quinn, this is Chuck Quinn. I was not able to get him for an interview, but I spent a bunch of time in the water with him. We were oyster farming. He had just taken them from one bin and put them in, I don't know, I've spent a lot of days with Chuck Quinn putting oysters from one container into another container. Dan's been there. She knows, you're vaguely know what you're doing. You're kind of just doing what he tells you to do. So this was one of those days we're taking it from one container and putting it in another container. So with Chuck, I have tons of voice notes and little notes that I've written down on my phone. One day I had to call him just to confirm some stuff, but everyone else were all sit down formal interviews. The only thing I'm gonna say, Shanae's was a little different. All of this was done in 2025. Shanae's was done earlier in the year. It was for the Long Island Children's Museum. And Shanae was kind of like a happy accident. She was building a Mashoon. This is the Mashoon Piwakoa or Little Pine. And that's just a canoe. It's a dugout canoe. And she was doing the dugout canoe for the Long Island Children's Museum, and they had hired me to make a video on it. So her interview was a little bit different. The Long Island Children's Museum, they wrote all the questions, and I was kind of just the production. But it was the first one that I did, and it did help a lot with the process. And the rest of them, I was the only person in production for all of them. All of these interviews were filmed on a camera, on that camera, with a microphone. I had a handful of questions on my phone that I wanted to ask everyone, you know, how they started, or how did they describe themselves, stuff like that. But I did want the interviews to be kind of, like I said, a podcast type thing. Like if you listen to Good Hang with Amy Poehler, most of the time when the celebrities are on there, they have a project coming up or they have a project out and they're promoting it, but then she's asking them questions about growing up. She's asking them, you know, it's so funny. She asks everybody like what their sleep schedules are. Like, so when do you go to sleep? Stuff like that. So I didn't do necessarily that with people, but I did ask them a lot of questions. And one of my favorite questions was asking people, well, I actually stole this from Amy Poehler. Amy Poehler, before she films the interview with whoever she's talking to, she will talk to another person who knows them first, and she gets a little bit more insight, and then she always asks those people, what's a couple questions you would ask? So I did try to do that with everyone. You know, what I asked around, like, what kind of question, David Martin, for example, my mom was the one who suggested I ask him what he would be doing if he wasn't a painter. You know, and I think I wrote it in there that he said he'd be a pianist. He's a classically trained musician in addition to being a artist, right? And I think a lot of Shinnecock people know he plays the piano, but did we know that if he wasn't an artist, he'd be a painter? I mean, if he wasn't a painter, he'd be a pianist? I don't know if people know that. So that's kind of where a lot of this came from. I just wanted to talk to people and ask them questions. Next slide. And these are all just kind of screenshots of the interviews. Most of them were filmed around the same time as the interviews. You know, if you look at, none of the people in this room are on here, but like you can tell it was just, that was, you know, right at Selena's house. We took the photo after we did the interview. Most of the interview, most of the photos were taken after I had interviewed them, so I think it helped them get a little bit more comfortable with sitting down in front of a photo. So that was really helpful. Ed Terry's, it's funny, I filmed, and I'm just gonna go back again. Oh no, where is he at? No, he's on this one. Ed Terry's up in the corner up there. We filmed this interview. I took a photo and then I didn't like the photo, and then like 4 months later went and took another photo of him. But you know, I wanted people to be in comfortable spaces. My Tracy, who's up in the top left corner, that's actually my house. I had wanted to originally take a photo of her at her house because she has a very similar setup to like Selena with all the stuff, and we just kind of couldn't do it. And she was like, just take a picture of me here at the Oyster Festival. Just do it right now. So we just did it right then. And then I did have to interview at my house. There's a lot of people and animals over there, and it was just loud, and I was like, there's no way we're going to get through a conversation without someone asking a question, so we'll just do that at my house. But otherwise, everybody else, a lot of these were just filmed on location with them. Like I said, I did all the production on my own. I'm not sure. Hold on, let's see. So hard to read the notes. Yeah, but so the interviews were a really big part of it, but for the sake of this exhibit specifically, I wanted the focus to be the photo and the captions. I see the photo and the captions as equally important. I think one can't exist without the other. You know, this is a really nice photo of Chuck Quinn, and I love it, and it's so interesting. It's on display somewhere else too. I kind of did this for another, like 2 projects that kind of ended up with this. And I think it's a nice photo, but I do think it means a lot more when you read the caption. And I can picture all of these pieces in a book where like one page is the photo and then the other page is a decent sized caption, because I just think they're very important and they work together really well. And Faces of the Stony Shore is, I mean, it's these 7 photos right now, but it's not gonna end with these 7 photos. There's tons of people who I had talked to as soon as I got the grant and I knew I was gonna do this, and we discussed them being in the project, and then for whatever reason, I just couldn't get them, but even then, I wouldn't have been able to fit them in here. You know, if I had gotten all 12 people that I originally thought of, I couldn't have printed them out so huge. I really like that they're really big. So like 7 is like the perfect size, and it worked out really, really well. So this is just kind of the beginning of this project. Like I said, it was a project I've been thinking about for 2 or 3 years that I had to really search to like remember who did the talk. That talk at Huntington Arts Council, which inspired me to like take portraits of people in their element, was from 2023. I went to that class. And so I've been thinking about this for a really long time. I've finally started it. I've finally done it. It's not going to end. There's so many other people I want to do. I want to travel. It's funny. Ed Terry, when I first thought of the idea, he was the main person I thought of. And I was like, I got to get him. He was like my main person. But there's another person like Gordon Smith. He's a welder, and I think he like lives in Minnesota or Wisconsin. He lives somewhere else. And I think he's here right now visiting. But like he lives somewhere else. I really want to go to wherever he lives and see his studio where he's welding. I want to see all his stuff. And he does, you know, he's commercial welder, and then he does art. He makes art, and he's a person who I've previously had in my photos, and I've had on display here in a photo, but I really want to go to his space and see what that's like. So I have tons of other people I have in mind. I just couldn't fit them all. I can only fit 7 people in here. And then I also intend to, the plan was always to post the videos on YouTube. I just haven't done it yet. A lot of these subjects, I told them I was recording and going to post it on YouTube, and then afterwards they were like, wait, you're going to post this? So, one, there's a lot of that. I have to decide, do I want this photo? And then I'm learning podcasting, so I'm not the best at kind of controlling the situation. And me and David Martin, the conversation went off the rails and was talking about something else for like a really long time. And then I think the battery ran out. Tracy's camera, I don't know, camera just turned off in the middle of that. Don't know what that was about. You know, so I want to look back at the videos and maybe cut them up a little bit, edit them a little bit. But it's one of those things. Yesterday when I was working on my presentation, I was listening to a podcast by a filmmaker, like a videographer, and he was interviewing another videographer, and they were talking about their first content, so the stuff they were making on YouTube and like short form content, reels and Instagram and stuff like that. They were like, I know I'm a professional and I'm trained in this, but it was really scary in the beginning to be in front of the camera and post it, but you just have to post it and you just have to get more comfortable with it. So I do know I just have to post all of these things because they're fine. Like they're fine. They're not bad interviews. It was just, you know, I don't know. But also like Shanae's wasn't even an interview. It wasn't even a sit down interview. It was fully for this other thing. And there's a whole video out there in the world about Shanae's Machoon that I made, but it was a different format. So I kind of just have to post a few of these and really get onto it, and then I'll continue on with the project. And that was mostly all I had to say about this project. One other thing I wanted to say is I had this other project that I did this year called Shinnecock People of the Stony Shore, and this was through a class that it was a tuition-free class through the 7 Foundation, and the 7 Foundation offers training programs for visual journalists. And I was in the Native American storytelling class, and I was kind of doing both of these projects at the same time, and a lot of that project was about I want to say like captions and writing words to accompany the photos, and that was a new thing for me. In the past, if I was taking photos of powwow and had to post them, I would probably post, I mean, I'll take like 1,000 photos over that weekend and edit 1,000 photos, but if I was posting it on the internet, I would probably post like 50 photos of powwow. So this class that I took through the 7 Foundation, one reason I really wanted to do it was I wanted to learn how to tell a story with less photos. There's more photos of all of these people, right? I have so many photos of Chuck in the water doing stuff. I have close-ups of their beadwork. You know, I have pictures of David Martin that was in his house of him showing me stuff. I have all these other photos, and I did think about adding them in. Maybe if I had one big photo and 2 smaller photos. You know, I think when I was really talking about this, I had wanted to do a really formal headshot of everyone, and then I kind of forgot about it, so it didn't happen. But like that was a thing that I had wanted to do, and the class that I took through the 7 Foundation, I think it really helped solidify kind of just telling a story with fewer photos, but also a cohesive story, and also spending a lot of time writing captions and things like that. The captions, I think, were very new for me. Like I said in the beginning, I grew up, I thought I was going to be a writer, and I always liked to write, and then I kind of fell off on that. And so sitting down and writing these captions was a big learning curve, and that class helped me a lot with it. And I can show, I don't think I'm probably going to read all the captions out loud. But it was like an 18 slide. But I do really quickly want to just talk about it, because like I said, so much of my art is about Shinnecock people, and there's so many different aspects of us. But this photo was about the water. This essay was about the water. I grew up here. I've swam my whole life in the bay. I absolutely love it. So I just want to read the description of this. So we were whalers and sailors. Our waters were built into our very DNA, connecting us through generations. Shinnecock people no longer whale, but we still live off the land. A common saying I hear is, as long as we have the water, a Shinnecock person will never starve. We fight against environmental changes due to global warming and encroaching wealthy outsiders surrounding us. Shinnecock folks use traditional and modern knowledge to fight for the health of their water and their people. And so I had this other, I'm not going to read them because some of them were very, very long. I was really trying to tell the story of who these are. But I recently started a Substack, and I posted them all on the Substack with the captions so you can read them in full and take your time. But this was this essay I did about Shinnecock, and a lot of these photos were taken over the summer or earlier. Some of them were a little bit earlier, but a lot of them kind of cross over to this project also, just because that's me. It's me and my dad in the bay as a baby. Like, I've been in this water forever, and I like really wanted to put that photo in there to show that it's very generational of the water.
Is that stamp?
Huh?
Is that stamp?
Yeah, that's Sam Boy. So this is a Shinnecock boy. He kite surfs. So if you're ever around and you're like at the water and you're like, why is there a person in the sky? It's Sam Tarrant. He's in the sky, and he told me he'd teach me how to do it. I don't think I want to be in the sky, but I'll learn to do that. That sounds fun. And so like we had a clam bake, and it was funny when I was trying to decide what my photo essay for this class was going to be. I kind of wanted it to all be about Chuck Quinn, and that didn't happen. We just talked about more. But so we have some we have the kelp farmers. We have a kelp farmer here, and there's another picture of you. My professor loved this photo. He thought this was so good. He thought it was so interesting. He thought it told such a really good story. You know, this is from my aunt's house, and then right across the water is this multi-million-dollar houses. So, oh, it cut off. You can't really see that one. But like here's Shanae and the Mashoon, and there's Chuck. And so me and Dan have both helped Chuck a little bit with the oysters, of like taking these little tiny oysters, the little seedlings, and putting them in something, and then a couple months later go see them again. Now they're a little bit bigger. A couple months later take them out of another thing because they've outgrown it, and now they're like this big and stuff like that. So it has been fun learning really how to tell these stories through photos, adding text of David Martini in. So cool, because like that's David Martini. You can see his process. If you don't know him, this is the kind of art that he makes. Is amazing. And so that is my essay. That is that photo essay. People of the Stony Shore. Like I said, I could send everybody the link if they want to see the Substack with the full captions on them. But I worked on those sort of at the same time. So it really helped with this. Yeah, like, I mean, Chuck's is basically the same caption. But like for example, this caption is view of a multi-million-dollar home across Heedy Creek from a backyard on Shinnecock territory. Approximately 61% of the Shinnecock population lives under the poverty line. The median price for a house in Southampton is around $1.2 million. So kind of writing these captions did really help being able to tell more of a story. This is also a project I'll probably be working on forever. We're always down at the water. There's always something going down over there with us. I'll be following Chuck around in the water forever. You know, one big thing with Chuck is he wants to teach people all the things he knows, and I think I've somehow gotten in there with people he calls. So he'll just like call me up and he'll be like, "What you doing right now?" And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "I'm going to the water right now. Do you want to help?" Yeah, Dan's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what happens." So like these are some projects I'll probably work on forever. I have a couple other projects I want to do now that I've finally. It's weird to say this, but like I've had this idea in my head for so long. I have all these ideas that I want to do, and I've never really done them, and this is the first one that I've done. So I know like one of my New Year's resolutions this year is to just do 6 new pieces of art. I don't know if they all have to be for this show. I really want to do one about Shinnecock people and their hair. I think we all have such different hair, and hair is so important to people and their self-expression and how they identify and stuff like that. And you know, I know people on the res who are the same skin tone as me have this very curly hair, and their hair is growing straight out of their heads, and other people have like even curlier hair. So I'm very curious about the hair, and that's the thing I wanted to do literally since I picked up a camera like 5 years ago and haven't done it. Mm-hmm. So if I say it out loud, maybe I'll do it. But yeah, so that's it.
Do you both have questions for our team?
Which photographers are a source of inspiration for you? Past, present?
You know what's funny? I don't know if it's photographers. I don't know like how much of inspiration I have in photographers. I mean, like Jeremy, it's so funny. Jeremy, we went to college together, and I watched him start to pick up a camera. We would drag him to parties, and he'd take photos of us at the parties. When we were like 20 years old, Christina and Kat were there like, "Yep, we were there." We have some profile pictures from when Jeremy started. So like stuff like that. Like, but also watching Jeremy become this big artist. You know, we went to college together. Here's 2 of my college friends who know Jeremy from college. And, you know, we knew him as the guy who was taking photos of us at parties. And now my friends, a lot of them aren't here, but like I will tell them something that Jeremy did. I'm like, "Oh, Jeremy got this grant, like Jeremy got this thing." And they're always like, "What? Mm-hmm. That's crazy." Like it's so interesting that he's able to do that. So like honestly watching Jeremy's career and how it goes. So like we have different styles. This is the most art type thing I've ever done. Jeremy, he's mostly doing fine art stuff, but like I don't know, he was in Italy recently, and I was like, "I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna figure that out." I want to go and be in that castle in Italy too for however long he was there. So like, Jeremy is a big inspiration of like where his career has gone. There's another man on the reservation. His name is Herb Randall. He's kind of known. I think he was taking a lot of photos in the 70s and 80s in the city and out here of Black people and Shinnecock people, and I love those types of stories of a photo where you can really see a lot of the community. So like something like this, and I took all these photos of the clam bake. This is a clam bake we had on the reservation. The environmental department, they organized it, and you know, I mean, I took enough photos. I was out in the water. I was trying to get clams. I was showing people how to get clams. There's a bunch of people had never got a clam before. So, you know, but I think a photo like this shows so much. And so I think a lot of his photos look like that. You know, and you can see what it was like being in the Bronx in the 70s. I just made that up. You wouldn't be mad at me if wasn't the case, but I feel like that's what he was doing. So I really love stuff like that. It's just like a lot of, it's people who are really telling stories. I picked up the camera for work. When I started as a communication director 5 years ago, I was not a photographer. I wasn't doing anything like this. I had some some content creation skill. I was posting a lot of videos of me working out. Like that was my only thing. I used to do CrossFit, and like that's how I started with it. Christina bought me a mount one time for Christmas. She was like, "You do this a lot. Here's a Christmas present. Here's a magnetic mount. You can stick it to the squat rack." You know. And so that's how I started. But so I think it's a lot of just storytellers. Maybe not so much photographers. I don't have that kind of background. It's only been 5 years.
Okay.
But like people telling stories of where they are and where they're from, stuff like that. Like my big pipe dream was there's a show on Comedy Central a few years ago. It's called Broad City. It was about these two it was about these two Jewish American girls in their 20s just like living in New York City, and it was one of my favorite shows ever, and I loved it. And I've always been like, that's the type of thing I want to create, of just showing the life of specific type of people, you know. And it was a show without a point, you know. Every episode they were just doing a new adventure in Manhattan or whatever, and I loved that. And so like, you know, one day I'll make a TV show. I'll make a sitcom, but like this is how I will get there, you know, telling these stories of all these different kinds of shitty kind of people, and they can all be little fun side characters on a, you know, show about some stoner girls just trying to make it through the day, and then Dave Martine's a side character or something, you know, things like that.
Where are the other two photos?
There's two more photos on this other side, yeah, of Ed in a talk.
What's your favorite medium? Like between like digital or print, like printed?
I mean, it's just photo for right now. It's funny, I as my career grows, I really like stuff. I love technology, and I love buying new things and trying out new things. So like, I mean, recently we found a film camera that like maybe was my grandfather's film camera. I haven't used it yet. I don't know anything about how it works. But I was thinking about like, I've shot all of it on that big camera with that big lens. All of those photos were taken with this. And I was thinking about getting like a smaller camera to try out a new type of camera. I think something with like a fixed lens, something small. I want to try that. I was watching, like I said, I was watching that podcast with two filmmakers, and one of the guys, I watched another video after it, he had gotten an old film camera that was like from the 70s, and he was trying it out. And so he had some camera from the 70s and he was trying it out. And I don't think I like video enough to be interested in doing that part of getting some big old camera, like you gotta turn it to make it record. I don't think I want to do that, but you know, I'm interested in trying out some film cameras. I'm trying to vlog a little bit. I didn't do it at all, but like this is my little vlogging camera, so like I've been testing out some stuff with this. So like at this point I'm just playing. I'm just figuring out kind of what it is. Thinking of myself as a multimedia artist is just the main focus is photography. And
Well,
then
I guess to add to that, like specifically in photography, do you prefer, or which one do you like best, working with things more digital and the ability to have like that technological sense of photography? Because you know photography has changed over time. Or do you like also, or the other side of more, I don't want to say olden times, but you know the actual printed photography and gallery type of thing?
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I love editing a photo. God, I love it. So like a lot of these, some of the lighting was rough. This did not look like this. That one did not look like that. So I had to edit a lot. I don't know if I can like be a film photographer. I know you can still edit stuff, but I don't know. Like on film, it's a lot harder. But this is new of having these big photos and writing captions. This is new as opposed to like posting everything on Instagram and stuff like that. So I think this is cool though. I do enjoy this. Like it's funny when I was talking to David, you know, obviously I hadn't printed them yet, but he was asking me like how big you're gonna print them, and I was like, I don't know, I'm thinking I'm gonna get them like real big. And he was like, that's such a good idea. Like the bigger you get them, like it's easier to put them in other galleries and other shows. I have a printer that prints out like 11 by 17. These are like 24 by 36 or something. So like every photo I've ever had that I've been able to print out before, so much smaller. These are so big. I absolutely love the frame. Like I think there was something about printing these out which made them feel a lot different. Like I've been posting them recently on Instagram, But it's just a digital, so you can't see the frame, you can't see the matting, you can't see the apparently these are hand torn edges for like. I ordered these. Multiple people were like, "Did you make these?" No, I ordered it. Came like this fully, came like this in the frame. But like, you know, having it printed out like this was so interesting and so fun. And so I do think I want to print out more things and on a big scale like this. So yeah.
Do you
Go
want
ahead,
to
please.
I was going to say, Rebecca, you have a show at the Long Island Museum in Stony Brook in July for the USA 250. Do you have any ideas yet for your piece?
No. I only just replied to that email, Jeremy. I have no idea unless I can put some of these in there. He just was like, no, you have to do something new. That's what that felt like. I was thinking maybe some of these, but I don't know. I mean, it could be new pieces. In the last show that was here, the last group Shinnecock show that was here, I had done a piece that I had staged a little bit more. Like, most of my work is documentary stuff, like whatever's happening in front of me. I might put someone in a certain place, but I'm not really staging things. In my last piece that was here for for the group show was a new piece that I had made, and it was a stage piece. It was really a lot of emphasis on my jewelry. It was a self-portrait. It was real tight, so a lot of people didn't know it was me, but it was like here up. And, you know, I had a belt and a necklace and a bracelet and all these other things that were in it. And so maybe elaborate on that. Maybe I had an idea a long time ago about asking seeing who has a lot of wampum jewelry and like if I can take pictures of it. You know, like I know Paula Collins has a lot of stuff. You know, I want to get a picture of Paula and all her things. So maybe something like that. So I want to do something about hair, but I also want to do something about jewelry and clothes and put it all together. Yeah, and that's the thing. So, you know, now that I've done more interviews, I think if I did a thing about people's hair, a lot of that would just be video. It would mostly be a video project, and then the photos would accompany it. You know, for this, the video wasn't, the photos and the caption were the important thing. The video was extra. I think if I did something about hair and jewelry, it would mostly be a video project and the photos would accompany it. So that was the plan. Yep.
Hi. Thank you so much for this talk.
Yes,
it
thank
was
you for
so
coming.
beautiful and your photos are gorgeous. I wanted to say I am also an oral historian. I love oral history as just like a form of collecting stories, collecting ancestral memories.
Yes.
I think it's beautiful as a way of collecting history that is different from text or just a still just that have the still photo because it gives so much depth and like humanity to the people that you're capturing. A lot of the oral history that I've done is with Black farmers in the Bronx, and you mentioned the Bronx, so I was like, but a lot of like Black farmers, community gardeners. I'm farming right now in Nassau County, so I really want to do an oral history project about Nassau County and the farming communities there. I have two questions.
Okay.
So my question is, how do you think about countering like narratives about Shinnecock people with the way that you're, you know, in the community, taking pictures of the community? Photography as a medium historically can be one that is really, you know, a colonial tool to capture people and like to have this narrative outside of the community, like looking in like an anthropological way or like a whatever. But you coming to tell your own story and tell your folks' story, I think is really powerful as a counter. And I'm also thinking about, I do a lot of thinking about like the intersection between Black and Native folks, life, history, family stories, and I want to know if that resonates with you and if you see that as a project or in your work or like what conversations you're having with other artists that are talking about this.
I think so, a little bit. Okay, so the first thing, I think it's always so important for the people in the community to tell the story. Other people can come in and tell a really good story.
Yeah.
Like I said, Broad City was so funny to me because it was two Jewish girls made that show and they were the lead characters, you know? And you watch something like Reservation Dogs or even like Nora from Queens, like she made that show about her existence. Like I've seen North and North is so good. Everybody watch North and North. It's on Netflix. So good. Or even like the Mindy Project, like everything that Mindy Kaling does. You know, it's very centered around her aspect of being a brown person. You know, where she likes white dudes, and like all the shows are about that. But you know, it's still her telling her story. It's not some other random person telling a story. Girlfriends was one of my favorite shows growing up ever, and Kelsey Grammer made that show. It was about 4 black girls in LA, and Kelsey Grammer, Frasier was in charge of that show. So, you know, and it was great, but now it's like so much more, it's so much better to watch something like Insecure.
Yeah.
There was black people behind the scenes, you did everything. There's probably no white people involved in that show whatsoever, you know? And so Girlfriends is great, Insecure is so much better, because she told that story about her life and her people and the things that she knows. So I always think it's really important for us to be able to tell our own stories. And I've said it before. I think that I'm like so incredibly grateful that Shinnecock people are trusting me to tell their stories, and I get to be the one to do it. What was the other part of your question? I forgot.
Black Native.
Oh yeah, Black Native. So it's so interesting for me. I am a Shinnecock person who always says that I'm black and native. And not everyone does that. And I've seen Shinnecock people be like, I'm not black, and it's like, I don't know about that. but it's also just because to me we're mixed, and I think so many people are mixed. Like even like black people, they tend to have white in them. Like everyone is mixed to a certain extent. Absolutely. I think I am curious, and I think the hair was part of it too. Like there's a couple of people who like have straight hair, who I see always have straight hair. Yeah. And I'm like, do they straighten their hair though? Yeah. Like on the res, and I'm very curious about it. Or hopefully I feel like I can say this, but one of my cousins, she was Miss Native America for a year. Like there's this nationwide competition, and my cousin, she got in autumn. And she has really curly hair like me. And when she was Miss Native America for that whole year, she straightened her hair every time she had to go do something. She told me. And she didn't tell me why, but she was like, yeah, I had to straighten my hair like all the time. And I assume she did it to look more indigenous. Yeah. You know, because she's a little bit lighter than me. You know, so she's brown skin and she has curly hair and she loves her curly hair. But when she had to go on stage, she always straightened it every time. And like, I recently occurred to me, I don't think my hair has been straight at all in 10 years. You know, and so I know that if I wanted to look a little bit more native, especially like if I go to a conference, you know, like I work for the tribe, so sometimes I have to go places, you know. I go to a conference, I went to like a NCIA conference, which is National Congress of the American Indian, and everybody was from out west or the southwest or something like that, or California, Alaska, and they were all light. And then there was like me and like 2 other people from the East Coast. And I had like, and there were so many things that I thought about doing when I showed up of like how to make it so everybody knows that I'm native. And I was like, whatever. And then the one guy, he had dreadlocks. He was brown skin, he had long dreadlocks. You know, and I had my curly hair every day out. You know, I mean, I pull it back a lot, but like, it's never gonna be straight again, probably. Like, this is my hair and I'm proud of it. And it's curly like this because I have black ancestry, you know? And I'm very, very proud of it. I don't know about other people on the res, that's not my business, but like, I don't know, my mom made me go to a bunch of black stuff when I was a grown up, so like, it's just, you know, you make me go to all the Martin Luther King breakfasts and Kwanzaa things at the church, at the library, you know, it's fine. You know, for me, I would never be like, I'm not part black, I'm fully native, but I do, but also I'll say this, whenever I'm around a lot of black Americans, I'm like, oh no, I'm not. This is different. Like, culturally, this is different. It's just, like, a very different vibe going to, like...
Can I ask why? Yeah.
Okay, so, like, I do a lot of stuff for the NAACP, right? I go to the NAACP events, there's always all these older black women with like these big hats on and like wigs and stuff, and it's like none of the old Shinnecock people dress like that. Like it's a different, it's different culturally. Like there's a lot of overlap. I think with a lot of things, like I think a lot of the ways that like I dress and I talk and stuff might be more black coded than like native. When I'm around other natives from like out west, I'm also different from them. Like I also notice like there's a difference culturally between me and them because I'm from the East Coast and I have black ancestry. Where it's a lot easier to hang out with someone from Mashpee or Pequot or something else on the East Coast than like go to Arizona. I don't like, this is a different world. This is a different world. And so I think it's the same thing. Like I said, I'm at the NAACP, all those old black ladies in their wigs and their hats, and like the men in their really fancy, like very colorful suits. I'm like, no, Shinnecock man, whatever, dress like this. They might be wearing suits, but like plain suits. They're not wearing all that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, our old people are different. Our young people, they might be very similar, but like it's still like our old people are different, and that is always like a cultural thing that I notice for me. That it's a very different type of, and I think it's just cultural. I think when you grow up somewhere, it's very cultural, and that's just what it comes down to. But I'll be in them spaces anyway, it's fine. Yes.
So you said you just picked up a camera for the first time 5 years ago?
Mostly.
Mostly. Do you remember the first photograph you took in that time frame that you really liked?
No. Because I didn't like them. Well, okay, so when I picked up the camera, like the tribe had to like keep bothering me about it. They kept having to be like, Rebekah, we told you to buy this camera. Like here's the money, buy the camera. And so that was going on for a while, and I kept being like, I do not want to. Can I just take the photos on my phone? Like, because I think it was just, it's Veterans Day. There's something going down with the veterans. Please go and take a photo. They're all down at the flagpole. Go take a photo. Like they just needed one photo of the veterans. So stuff like that. And I think that's when it started. But I remember the first thing I took. We had a little mini powwow where it was like COVID. It was 2021, I think. And we just had a very little powwow that was just for Shinnecock people. And I took a couple photos, and like there was some photos people liked. I think it was just an auto mode. I had the kit lens, so the lens that comes with the camera, and it was like it wasn't that fancy camera, it was a smaller camera. So, I took a couple pictures, it was fine. And then Jeremy curated a show at the Southampton Art Center, Outcropping, and it was open for like a couple months. And there were always talks and craft fairs and things that were going on there like every week or two. He had something over there, and I would just bring my camera to that, and that's really where I learned. And I think like the only photo that I took that I liked from the beginning was like this photo of my Aunt Mary and like taking her like mask off and laughing. And I just thought that was like I thought that was a cute photo, and like that was the main photo that I really remember liking. And then I got COVID that winter and I didn't have anything to do, so I was like watching video. I was like, how are people taking better photos with this same camera that I have? And so I started watching YouTube videos, and then I was like very determined to take a very good photo, and that's just how it happened. It was just like, I'm gonna figure out how to take a really nice one. And then I got hooked on it, so I just take lots of nice photos all the time now. Oh, but I will say, I did take a photography class in high school. And it was supposed to be a 2-part class, and I did not take the second part because I did not like it. Did not like that photography class at all. So that is my experience with photography before. I took a 1 semester photography class a year. Did go back for part 2.
I have a question. In terms of your process,
Okay.
I've seen you do some portraits that, like you said, with a plain background, and then you have people in their element or doing some activity. Which is your preferred?
In their element, one is a little less technical. Like if you're taking a portrait of someone with a backdrop, you need to have a light. Gotta have like a off-camera flash. There's all these other things. I'm not the best with flash. I watched a video in front of him on how to do flash, and that is a great photo. And I took it and I was like, ooh, that video was so helpful. And it was like a Instagram reel about Flash that I watched in front of him, and to get that Flash. So like portraits, I think are fun. I don't necessarily like taking portraits in the studio just because you have to control so much more. But I mean, in general, my favorite thing to do is events. Like I'm rebranding right now my like photography business side of it. And I've decided like events, I really like events for cultural and art organizations and things like that. That's what I want to do all the time. That's my favorite. And I think all of this, like this sort of exhibit kind of leads into that. Like that's what I was doing for Shanae. I was making a video for a museum, and that's how I ended up in this photo with this photo of her. And you know, I don't even know if they needed photos, but I was like, I gotta take photos and stuff since I'm standing here. Because I want to take photos of this process of it. So like documentary stuff is my ideal thing, and I kind of like if you can just kind of get a person like Tracy's photo. I have a picture like if you know Gordell, I have a picture. If you know Gordell, I have a photo of Gordell from a couple of hours ago. He had on a yellow shirt and his stand was yellow. And I was like, this is the best. So like that is a photo that I have that I absolutely love. It's a photo of him at his stand. He just happens to be matching it that day. And so like that kind of stuff is really what I like to do. The portraits, I don't want to be mean, but that's a way to make some money to help supply the rest of this stuff.
Have you done or considered documentary film, like a short independent 20-minute documentary film?
I think so.
Because it would engage the narrative discipline that you have.
Yeah. I think it's funny, like I said, like the idea one day I make a funny sitcom about like some Native girls. But like most filmmakers and stuff, and even if they're doing scripted stuff, they start out doing documentary films. So something like that. Sterling Harjo, who did Reservation Dogs, was like the big Native show, so important. His first couple movies were documentary stuff about his grandfather and growing up on the res and stuff like that. And now he's just making a show with Ethan Hawke. You know, so so I think that filmmaking is the thing I'm gonna do. I recently got a gimbal, which is like a stabilizer for video. I haven't done a lot with it. I rented one for this project and I used it, and then I used some of the grant money to buy that gimbal. I've played with it, but I haven't really done it. So like video is something that is, because it's so much more complicated. Like even these of like, you know, with David I had to set up, there were these lights I had to set up, stuff like that. It's so much more involved than photo.
Right. And it's more team oriented.
Exactly. It's a lot. And so I'm self-taught. Like I said, I picked up a camera 5 years ago. I have a cinema and cultural studies degree. We were not making movies, we were just talking about them. You know, I made like a stop motion film one time for a class. And it was Skittles. We did Tetris with Skittles. And so like that was my filmmaking before, you know, I'm not in film school. It's funny, my little cousin's in film school right now, and she was talking about like, oh, I feel like you just need experience, like you don't need to be in school. I was like, girl, you better be in school. You better learn to use those cameras. I would love for someone to teach me how to use my camera rather than me figuring it out. I would love for anybody else to handle the light and the sound and not me. So I think it's definitely a team effort. I've vaguely been teaching some Shinnecock people how to, like people my age who are my peers, some camera stuff. So like one day if we ever want to make a film, we got a couple other people who can hold a camera at least.
Cool. Any final questions from the crowd?
I think there's some
There's like 2 on here, but I can't see them from
Jeremy,
this
do
view.
you know how to?
You gotta look at it from that view.
Zoom chat.
I can't like exit out of this slideshow to touch anything on my screen.
Let me read them out loud. Your mom, Lisa, says, when will there be a book?
Well, you know what? I was thinking about taking these. I was on Blurred last night when I was supposed to be working on this presentation. I was being like, how much would it cost to take these people of the Stony Shores and put them into like a really little, you know, it doesn't have to be a big book. I think I look at a lot of photography books and they're big. Jeremy's photography books are big books. So like But I could put 18 photos in a book. And it's just a little soft color book. So maybe something like that. So one day, maybe this year.
Yes, 2 people who asked about the book. So.
Oh, yeah. So maybe. I think for the people of Stony Shore, I would love to put that in a book also, but I need more than 7 photos at the end. Like, these are great, but I need more than 7 people in it. So, once I get to 14, we'll revisit it. Revisit the idea. But I think Blurb said you need to have at least 20 pages. So ideally I get 20 people minimum, and then I'll make a book.
I was going to ask too, if you inherited your grandfather's camera, what photographs did he take?
So, recently one of my aunts gave me my grandfather's stuff. So my grandfather was in the military, he was in the army, and he took photos. And I have all these slides. So, it's before my time, I don't know how to describe them, but those little slides where you take photos in the slides. And, I don't know what that is. I did not go to school for photography. Actually, what's so funny? The only class I ever failed in my whole life was a photography class in college. It was history of photography, F. Only time I ever got an F. Didn't really care for that either, so.
You have to email that.
Exactly, I'd be like, look, don't know anything about history, but in practice, I'm pretty good. But yeah, so he has photos of slides, and my aunt brought them over, and I just had to put them away somewhere, and I haven't had the time to go through them. But the photos that were on the slides that I looked at, like I said, my grandfather was in the army, and so my dad was like born in Alaska and like grew up in Germany, and there's like all the couple times I was like, what are these? And I was like, okay, I think that's my dad in Germany probably. This is my dad in Alaska. But so, but also, like I said, like we found a film camera in the house, and we're actually not sure whose it is. Is it my grandfather's? Is it my stepdad's camera? Maybe, who knows? Like we have no idea where that camera came from. But speaking of my grandfather, so my grandfather, he was a photographer, and he passed away before I picked up any of this. So like this was never a conversation we ever had in our lives. I think he died like the year before I picked up a camera, honestly. But in his house, and it's a thing I talk about a lot, in his house, he just had photos of everything in his house. And so any photos that people gave him, if here's a picture of my grandson, his school photos, or like photos of parties. There was a bunch of old photos, like parties from the 70s that my grandfather like they would host at the house. And he just had them in frames. Like he would have like a bunch of frames this big, and they'd be just like full of all these little photos. And so growing up, I especially really loved going to my grandfather's house all the time and like looking at the photos. I didn't know who were in most of those photos, but like it was really cool to see all these photos that he had, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know if he took those photos. A lot of them were given to him, but like I absolutely loved going to my grandfather's house and looking at them. And my cousin lives in the house now, and he hasn't really taken them down. Like when my grandfather passed away, I told her I think I got on Facebook, and I was like, if you have photos in this house, please get them, because like we're not gonna do anything with them. But so probably like a quarter of them are still on the walls. And so it is kind of fun to go over there and be like, wow, this photo of this lady, I don't know who that is, but like I love that there's all these photos. And so, I think I inherited at least that from him. So like I said, I don't know really what he was doing with the camera because we never really talked about it. But, I grew up looking at these photos of Shinnecock people all the time. And the photos that I take on a day-to-day basis. So, a lot of these photos from the clam bake, something like this, or that's not a good example. This is more of a good example. This one, I don't even know what kid that is, and I had to ask someone. I was like, "That's a Shinnecock. Do you know who this is? Is this a Shinnecock boy? This could have been someone's friend, because like I brought my non-Shinnecock friend to the clam bake, So I was like, I don't know whose kid that is. I never seen him before. But my grandfather had when I take photos like this. I love these photos because this feels historical to me, and it reminds me of the photos that were in my grandfather's house, where he just had all these random photos of people, at parties, on the beach, whatever. And so I'm always trying and thinking purposely that like these are the photos that people are going to look back on 40 years later. Like here's a picture, like this little boy. One day his grandkids are going to be like, here's a photo of my grandfather at the beach when he was little, something like that. So that's kind of is a big goal to kind of document all of it, and then a little bit more. We're Native. We just have to prove stuff. So like having photos is good for us historically to have all these photos of like, look, here's like, there's a picture of my grandfather as a little boy before we did the powwows, when we used to have like the Native American festivals or something like that. It's just like a photo of my grandfather as like a little boy at this Native American festival, and that proves like we were doing this in the 40s. Look, like we were doing stuff. We've always been doing stuff. So I always think of kind of this kind of stuff. So like there's a couple kids who dance, and I've been taking photos of them for the past 5 years, and they know that like if I'm walking over to them, they're like, okay, Rebekah's gonna take our photo. And it's like, I take a photo of you guys. You're 12. One day you're gonna be 30, and it's gonna be really cool to see these photos of you as little boys in your regalia, as little kids when you're grown-ups. Or like to show your kids, look, I did this as a little kid. So stuff like that. So that's kind of where I am. So like that is my thing that I love to do the most. Just documenting all of it.
Mm-hmm.